Hi there, my name is Mary Maple, and I'm here today to tell you a story about my adventures in the woods. Can you tell what this story might be about? That's right, if you said black bears, you're right. Well, I've spent a lot of hours in the woods in Shenandoah National Park in Virginia with my son Gabriel. And Gabriel and I studied the black bears for a long time. This is Gabriel when he was about 10 years old. Can you see what he's looking at? Yeah, it's a black bear. So one day we got to know a bear named Gertrude. And Gertrude was a black bear in Shenandoah National Park with 3 cubs. And Gabriel decided to write this story about Gertrude to teach people about how to be safe around black bears and how to keep the black bears safe. And the story is called Oh No, Gertrude by Gabriel Maple. That's my son, and he wrote it when he was 10 years old. The really fun thing is that Gabriel's now 24 years old, and he's now a park ranger in the National Park Service. But this was long before he became a ranger, but he was very, very much wanting to protect the animals. So he wrote this story. Now, do you see something in this picture? Where is the black bear? Oh no, Gertrude is at a picnic table. Do bears belong at picnic tables? No, so let's see what happens. In the cold winter months, there is no food, so the bears sleep for a long, long time. Bears give birth to their cubs in winter dens. One winter, there was a bear named Gertrude, and she gave birth to 3 little tiny bear cubs, and those cubs weighed less than 1 pound each at birth. Have you ever picked up a Coke can? The bears weighed less than that. They were just so tiny and little. At 2 months old, they had grown a lot, and they looked like this. They're so cute, the little babies. When it became spring, Gertrude and her 3 cubs emerged from the den. That means they came out of the den. And the cubs got to see the world for the very first time. And food was still scarce, so the cubs still highly depended on mother's milk. Do you see how the cubs are exploring and climbing the logs and drinking their mama's milk? Aren't they so cute? Whoop, my bear here is falling off my chair, but I think she wants to listen to the story too. At this time, the cubs were frisky fur balls of energy and weighed 4 to 8 pounds each. And the cubs were pros at tree climbing. Do you see how they're climbing the trees? Gertrude depended on meat from deer and other dead animals that she came across. So here, Gertrude is eating some deer. Now, she didn't hunt the deer, but she did eat the deer, and that's because this deer got hit by a car by people who were driving too fast in the park, and the deer died. So the rangers pulled that deer into the woods so that the bears and other animals could eat it. So it's really sad that the deer died, but it became the natural food for the bear to eat. And the cubs had just a tiny bite. As spring progressed, they would eat plants, grasses, bulbs, and other things. And if they were lucky, they would run into an anthill filled with tasty larvae just for them. She's digging the anthill and getting the larva. As it started to be summer, a few berries began to ripen. Gertrude, and especially the cubs, had to keep eating so that they would grow to be big and healthy. Do you like eating berries? They like eating blackberries and raspberries and all kinds of berries that might grow in the wild in the park. One day while looking for food, Gertrude and her 3 cubs strolled into the picnic ground. Uh-oh. What do you think is going to happen? And to her surprise, she saw that at one of the picnic tables, there was easy to get, free human food. Some naughty picnickers had left their food out on the picnic table, and they didn't clean it up before they went on a hike. She thought that the chips, cookies, and bread and all the other food was so delicious. She's sitting at the picnic table. Although some people might think that it is good that Gertrude got that food, it really was not. It was not good because if bears are fed or find unattended food out on the picnic tables, like Gertrude did, then they will likely become so used to people that they will have to be relocated or killed. There's a saying in the park, a fed bear is a dead bear. And they don't deserve to die just because people left the food out. Once Gertrude finished eating the food at the picnic table, she saw that at the next picnic table over, there was food too, but there were also people at that picnic table. The people backed up because they were concerned about the approaching mama bear. So Gertrude got all that food too. The sad thing is that Gertrude kept repeating this behavior, so the park service named her a trouble bear. But Gertrude wasn't the naughty one. It was the people who went hiking without cleaning up their food that were naughty. It's just a natural thing for a black bear to scavenge and eat whatever food it finds. So if people leave out their food, the black bear just will eat it. It's not their fault. As people, we need to learn how to clean it up so that we don't put bears in danger. Gertrude became a habituated bear, which means that she was so used to people that it was a major problem. Then the park service had to start slingshotting and paintballing Gertrude to sting her and to deter her from being in the picnic grounds. So they want it to sting a little bit, but they don't want to hurt her that she's can't walk or can't see. So they take the slingshot and they put a little stone or marble in it, pull it back, and bing, and try to hit her in the butt or on the shoulder. And that's supposed to scare her away. And Gertrude and Gabriel and I, my son Gabriel and I, learned how to use the slingshot. We were trained by the park to help with other bears. Now, I never did get to slingshot Gertrude. I think that would have been hard since we became friends. But I did slingshot other bears. And it's not a fun thing to have to do because it means that the bears are in danger. And when we slingshot them, we want to help them stay away from people so that they can stay alive. And that's why the park rangers do it, to try to help the bears become wild again. As the ranger said, I'm supposed to slingshot bears and deer who are hanging out in the wrong places, in hope that the sting from the slingshot will make the animals not want to be in the park, picnic areas, and campgrounds. So, a funny story, the ranger who did slingshot Gertrude said to Gabriel and I can slingshot deer, I can slingshot bear. Can I slingshot silly people? No, we don't slingshot silly people, but we do want silly people to stop doing what they're doing. Gertrude should just be eating natural foods, and her cubs should be playing and climbing trees while Gertrude looks for food. But no, they now have easy food, and not just easy food, but food from people. One naughty person has put a family of bears at risk. The Park Service is so concerned about Gertrude being habituated because people food is not healthy for bears at all. And if the people at the second picnic table didn't back up and give Gertrude what she wanted when she approached them, then Gertrude might attack the people, and she would be blamed and likely killed. And sadly, Gertrude and her cubs do not stand alone in this situation. And what the Park Service is most concerned about is, what if Gertrude sees somebody on a trail and wants their food? Even if they don't have any food, Gertrude might attack them thinking that they do have food. And the sad thing is that when the cubs grow up, they will have learned from Gertrude that people have food, so they might get into trouble too. Gertrude often strolled into the campground too to check out what food might be there. And often bears get into even more trouble in the campgrounds than in the picnic areas. Obviously, the slingshotting and paintballing didn't work. Gertrude didn't learn her lesson. So the Park Service decided that Gertrude had done her things too many times and that they had to move her. Look, she ripped apart the wooden shed around the garbage. She was able to rip all that wood apart and pull out the garbage. Before Gertrude was moved, she decided to break into a garbage shed in the park. So she and her cubs feasted on the most tasty garbage. The garbage was so yummy. She ate bags full of rotten banana peels, leftover pork barbecue, leftover hamburgers, chili, and much more. The cubs loved the garbage as much as Gertrude did. They thought it was so tasty. Gertrude and her cubs were making a mess. So the Park Service needed to get Gertrude and her cubs to move out. So they shot a beanbag at her. The beanbag scared but didn't injure Gertrude. But it scared her so much that she ran away from the yummy tasting garbage. Then it became moving day. So the Park Service cooked a meal in the picnic area to attract Gertrude to a live trap that they had set. And Gertrude strolled into the picnic area, examined the trap. It even looked like she read the sign. See this trap? And there's a sign. And it looks like she's reading it. Do you think Gertrude can read? The Park Service put yummy smelling jelly donuts in the trap to get Gertrude to go in. And the donuts smelled so good to Gertrude that she couldn't resist, even after reading the sign. So in she went. Once they had Gertrude trapped, they still had to get the cubs, but that was not easy to get the cubs because they wouldn't go inside the live trap. So the Park Service shot tranquilizer darts at the cubs, which gave them medicine to go to sleep, so the Park Service could put them in a cage and move them. Before they moved Gertrude, they gave her some medicine to go to sleep, and so they could do an exam on her. They wanted to determine her age, how much she weighed, and to give her a yellow ear tag so they could identify her in her new home. Gertrude weighed 129 pounds and was 3 years old. This is an interesting fact. Do you know how they tell how old a bear is? Do you know with a tree, when you cut a tree, you can count the rings in a tree and see how old it is? Well, it's the same with a bear's tooth. If you take a little piece off of one tooth, you can count the rings, and it will tell you how old the bear is. Gertrude's tooth had 3 rings. She was 3 years old. Once they finished Gertrude's exam, they put her in the back, in the trap. They put her back in the trap and on the truck, and they transported her and her cubs to their new home about 70 miles away. Once they got Gertrude to her new home, the rangers released Gertrude and her cubs, and the cubs took one last look before running away. Now Gertrude could go back to eating natural foods, but if she ever got into trouble again somewhere else in her new home, then the Park Service would have to trap her again and move her to the National Forest, which could be dangerous for her because that is a hunting area. Do you see the cubs taking one last look? The main thing Gertrude and her cubs ate after being released were acorns and hickory nuts because they ripen as it gets to be late summer and fall. Gertrude and her cubs had to climb the tall oak and hickory trees to get to the yummy nuts. They climb high into the tree. You see the bear on the branch? Although it is usually easy to get to the nuts, sometimes the bears will gnaw the tree branches with their teeth while high up in the trees to get large number of out-of-reach nuts. And their reward for their hard work is that they get to feast on all the nuts. The nuts are so yummy for the bears, and hopefully Gertrude will think of them as more yummy than people food. There's Gertrude and 1, 2, 3 cubs. I actually took that picture. Gertrude and her 3 cubs were spotted one last time when they were getting ready to den, and she stood up and took one last look before going off into the woods to sleep for the winter. And we can only hope that Gertrude will stay safe and never run into any more naughty people and never run into trouble again. Oh No, Gertrude by Gabriel Maple. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope that you will always clean up your food and not leave it out for bears or raccoons or other animals to find, because that puts them in danger. And if they're in danger, then they might get scared and hurt people. So we need to work together to keep the wild animals safe. Thank you for listening.